Hello everyone and welcome back to the Steph Zone channel. If you're joining me here for the first time, I am so excited to have you. First of all, thank you so much for the engagement on my last video. That video was all about kind of how to back away from aesthetics-focused influencing and really define your me-made style. The comments that you were leaving for me, the conversations that were happening in the comments between you all, it was really just wonderful to watch. It was really that exchange of ideas, that exchange of inspiration that made me want to start doing YouTube content in the first place. So you really made my day with all of your kind words and interesting thoughts. Now, in that video, I mentioned how I often look internationally for inspiration and how this often helps me find pattern designers who aren't primarily working in English. Clearly, this is something that many of you were interested in as well. After some research, I'm back today with a list of small-scale French sewing pattern designers that I'd really like to get to know. It's worth saying here that I'm aware I'm going to leave out some big names in French sewing patterns, like Deer and Doe, for example. That's only, there's no problem with those. It's just that I want to focus on showing you designers who I think you're less likely to come across in the English-speaking market. For each designer, I want to give an overview of the kind of brand, For each designer, I'd like to give an overview of kind of the different styles they have on offer and really do a spotlight on two patterns that I think are particularly exciting. This is probably going to be a slightly longer video, so definitely get a cup of tea or your, beverage of choice. I do also want to be clear that from what I can see, the size bands for French sewing patterns are going to be a lot smaller than the UK or the US indie brands. The patterns that I saw typically ran from a European like 36 to maybe a 48. I have managed to find a few that go further, up to a 56, and I really wanted to include that because I think it's important. But I just want you all to be aware that that is not going to be the case for every brand I show in this video. Now, do I wish they had more inclusive ranges? Like, obviously yes. But what I don't want to do is comment on what makes sense for the French-speaking indie pattern market. The sizing landscape differs country to country, so I wouldn't want to be applying the kind of standards that I would to a US or UK brand to the French-speaking market when, again, I don't really know that much about it. Enough exposition, though. I want to get into the patterns. So first up, we have Atelier 8 Avril. I don't know 8 in French, I should know, I'm sorry. But again, very high up on my to make list. The owner of that brand, Pauline, made a big change in 2020 and fully retrained in fashion design and pattern making. In just a few years, she's released so many patterns. It is genuinely very impressive. The patterns seem to have an emphasis on unique style lines and lots of bold details. Think ruffles, cutouts, ties, backlists. These patterns are not for the minimalists among you. However, the actual shapes involved don't look very complicated, so they still feel accessible, even again if you're not a French speaker. It is also worth saying that she does videos for all of her patterns, which again are super helpful when you're working with patterns that are not in your native language. First up to spotlight, I want to do the pearl dress. This dress is really simple. It's a lovely little empire waist shape, but there's actually quite a lot going on with it. Right off the bat, I'm a huge fan of those big puff sleeves. And I think the fact that the sleeves are a little bit longer kind of keeps it from looking like a little girl's dress. Similarly, the center placket actually has a hidden button band, and there's some really cool diagonal seam lines coming down from the shoulders. There is so much you could do with this. Color blocking, putting some trim or lace in those diagonal seams, piping. It's just a really cool twist on what is otherwise a pretty relaxed design. In terms of the bottom of the skirt is just a very simple gathered skirt, a little bit A-line, longer at the back than the front, so again, you'll have an easy time with fitting there. It is worth saying that I saw a few examples of this where someone was wearing it as a maternity dress and it looked fantastic, looked very comfortable, so a great option for those who might need that as well. I also want to shine a spotlight on the Mont Royal jacket pattern. This one is really interesting. It's a wrap jacket, can be made in either a lighter weight quilted fabric or she recommends wool as well. Of course, the main thing that stands out is that shoulder detail. It is very bold. I was actually a little bit unsure about this one originally. I don't know, I was thinking like, is this giving Return of the Jedi vibes? But actually seeing the various versions on Instagram totally changed my mind, especially considering the range of fabrics that different folks are using. I personally love the versions that are made in the quilting fabric, but the ones in printed fabric also look really chic. I saw some check ones as well, which I was also considering. There is so much more that I would love to talk about from this designer. I could really do a full video just on her designs. I'm a particular fan of those jeans with the interesting diagonal kind of patchwork detail. There's an oversized blouse with these like undulating seam lines across the yoke. But you know, we got to make space for other people. I did want to talk about this designer first though, because Pauline just announced that she is going on maternity leave. So it felt like a perfect time to showcase her work. And I would really love if you all showed her some love during this time. Next up, we have Le Lupita di Caria, which I think means Caria's whims. I'm assuming her name is Caria. And her patterns also come in English. This designer is also a bit newer to the scene. It seems like she only started sewing in 2017 and released her first pattern in 2019, which is like, I was not anywhere close to thinking about pattern drafting when I was 2 years into sewing. I loved like just going for it. She has a really interesting range of designs, and you can tell that this gal really loves her pleats. There's pleats, low backs, again, diagonal seams. Maybe that's a French thing. But she's also the most size-inclusive designer I have on this list and has a number of patterns going up to 56. The rest of them seem to go largely up to 52, but it looks like it's something that she's actively working on and has made kind of public statements about her desire to be more size-inclusive, which we love. First garment to spotlight here is the Cosmic Jacket, which has sort of a chore coat vibe. Looking at the line drawing, you can see it's fairly boxy, drop shoulder jacket, smallish collar, and an integrated pocket. Personally, I think it's the diagonal seam lines and the top stitching that make it really stand out. It kind of reminds me of like sort of a higher end brand like COS. I'm also a fan of the fact that the pocket is sort of integrated and hidden versus the patch pocket that you would typically see on short coats. Of course, like those also look great, but I think that this looks just a little bit more sophisticated, and it makes me think that it could be made in fabrics that aren't denim and still look really good. Next up, I do want to talk about the Merrill jumpsuit. This is an interesting one because it's a jumpsuit, but the pattern is clearly designed to be fairly modular, so you can really easily split it up and either just make just the top or just the trousers, versus other jumpsuits which are kind of more integrated and you would have to draft a waistband and things yourself. There's really a lot going on with this pattern, and to be honest, like unless you're very, very comfortable with fitting, I would personally recommend making this as separates first to get the fit right before trying to do the jumpsuit all at once. The reason I wanted to pick this though was for the fact that it is sort of modular, but also for that kind of interesting, it's like a flounce or maybe an inset, which is running from the neckline down to the base of the sleeve. It's a really interesting detail. It's one that I've not seen before, and I just would be really interested to know how that kind of comes together technically. It seems to be a detail she really likes, just because there's also a coat pattern with a similar detail on the arm. If you are looking for a designer who is going to surprise you, who's going to bring those interesting technical details, it really feels like Caria may well be the designer for you. Next up, we have Clementi's patterns. Celine, the vision behind this brand, had a 20-year career in ready-to-wear and pattern cutting before moving into the home sewing market. So I'd bet her pattern cutting skills and her drafting is really going to be outstanding. In general, I'd say her designs are very feminine. There's a lot of body skimming cuts, soft draping, again, lots of backless options. The French designers seem to love that. I think it's like so cool, it's so sexy. If you have a holiday coming up, this is definitely a pattern brand which might work for you. The first pattern that I want to showcase is the Pilote jumpsuit. The jumpsuit shape itself is fairly simple. You got a loose bodice, elastic waist, some wide leg trousers. However, I think that the shaping of the elastic within the waist is going to be very flattering as opposed to kind of just like the straight wide elastic waistband. I find that that type of waistband tends to also move around a bit more than a shaped one does, so it could be a good option for comfort as well. Also, the design is backless, so no zipper, nope, you don't have to worry about a zipper, and there is lots of ventilation. If jumpsuits aren't your thing, I know not everyone likes it, the jumpsuit is all fun and games until you have to go to the bathroom on a night out. But the pattern also does come with a dress variation. So you just get the same shaping of the bodice at the top, but there's just a nice little A-line skirt gathered with an asymmetrical ruffle, which you don't have to put the ruffle on. To give you something at the opposite end of the spectrum though from a backless jumpsuit, I also want to shine a spotlight on the capuchin cape. As much as we don't want to think about it, starting some autumn sewing in the next few weeks, at least for us here in England, is not going to be a terrible idea. This cape has really lovely structure. They're shoulder darts. It looks to me to be princess seams. I can't quite tell. And it comes in a collarless version and a version with a collar, and would certainly work in like most medium weight wools or boiled wools. I can envision making this in a camel wool. I think that would be really chic. But there is another part of me that would really want to make this in like bright 70s check wool. It would be very 70s. Actually, let me get the one that I mean. Yeah, I have too much fabric packed onto these shelves. Wouldn't this be cool as a little cape? But again, I have to think back at the advice I was giving you all and myself in my last video about outerwear needing to match lots of garments. So I'd have to do a bit of a fit check first to make sure that this would be versatile. Either way though, I wanted to showcase Clementi's just because, again, the versatility here is excellent. The two garments I've showcased, the jumpsuit and that cape, they are very, very different, and I feel like she's nailed them both. Last but certainly not least, I want to double click into Maison Fove. The designs from her are slightly softer, a little bit more streamlined than some of the brands that I was speaking about earlier. You're going to see lots of swingy skirts, loose trousers, and again, curved and diagonal seams. It's just very popular there, I guess. It is worth noting that this brand also has a slightly better size range, so up to an EU 52 in most styles, and the patterns come in English as well as in French to hopefully make things easier on people. Something that I really love is the level of pattern support they give. Of course, the patterns come with instructions, but there's also video tutorials for all of them in addition to blog sew along, so you're kind of spoiled for choice when it comes to pattern support. Additionally, something that they offer, which I think is so outstanding, and I'm really glad that I found it, is a whole guide on pattern alterations. It's like 80 pages long, completely free, covers things like bust adjustments, adjustments to height, fitting for kind of rise and booty curve on jeans. They also include information on how to resize patterns beyond the limits of their current grading, which I think is fantastic. Lots of brands offer information on how to adjust patterns within their current sizing, but offering something that allows people to go beyond their current sizing is really unique. So the first of the two patterns that I want to show from them is actually a free one. These guys really bring it with the free offers. I see free patterns pretty often, but honestly, they're usually like incredibly basic, which makes sense. Like if you're going to give people something for free. Maison Fove actually offers a range of free patterns for both clothing and accessories, which are a little bit more complex. And the one that I want to spotlight is the Tribeca blouse. This is a woven blouse with curved piecing and insets, which would be really excellent for using up scraps and remnants. Despite being a pretty standard shift top shape, the piecing wraps all the way around across the upper arm and across the back. Honestly, the photos on the website of that blouse, like, they're lovely, but they really don't do it justice. You got to get on Instagram and look at other people's examples. In particular, I'm a huge fan of the versions that are made with inset lace. I saw some monochrome version using fabric with, similar palette, but different textures. They really looked fantastic. For our last pattern here, also from Maison Fove, I want to do a pair of trousers just because we haven't talked about one of those yet in this video. Personally, I'm a huge fan of the look of these hussard jeans. I'm going to say hussard, I don't know how to pronounce it. Again, some really unique details here. The jeans themselves are designed for non-stretch denim bottom weight fabric. They have a high waist, slightly tapered leg. Looks like a similar-ish fit to the Megan Nielsen Dawn jeans, which I'm also a big fan of. But what I particularly love about these are the top-stitched exposed darts. I haven't seen that on a jeans pattern before, as well as the angled integrated pocket. It's sort of like Dawn jeans meet the Pietra pants meets, like, I don't know what other pattern has exposed darts, but it looks really cool. I personally have never seen a pattern like that. Kind of reminds me of like almost old school jodhpurs, if you've ever seen those. Then on the back, rather than a traditional yoke, there's actually a curved seam kind of going over the top of your hips and angling back down towards the front pocket on the side. It's just so cool. I was thinking, like, as someone, who has a big ass, I'm unsure whether this seam would be like gentle contouring or if it would be like a magnifying glass on it. We're gonna have to just wait and see. I'm pretty dedicated to making these jeans. So the jury is out, but I will report back on whether I think the shape works for me. But again, they had some of the examples that I've seen on Instagram and even on the pattern page showed it looking really great on a range of body types, so I'm excited for these ones. I would personally try and do a denim with it, but she also recommends jacquard, which I think would look really incredible, really a great look for something like a special like holiday trouser little suit set. Overall here, great range of designs, clearly loads of support for the making and fitting process and some really unique styles, so what's not to love? Now, I'd love to just continue to go on and tell you all about the other patterns that didn't make it to my list, but I think that that's enough for one video. If you have made it this far, thanks for watching, and now, as always, I want to hear from you. Do you have any experience with the designers I've listed? And if so, what did you think? I would also love to know which designer appealed to you the most, as well as whether there's any other non-English pattern roundups you want me to look at. I had so much fun doing the research for this video, and when I share my next video, which is going to be a roundup of end of summer sewing plans, you can definitely expect for at least one French pattern designer to be featured. Overall though, can't wait to hear your thoughts, and I really look forward to being back here soon. Bye!